Alinka Angelova to speak with us. And we are speaking from the Simcoe County Museum. And our land acknowledgement will start us off today. So the Simcoe County acknowledges the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, which includes the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. We also recognize the Huron-Wendat, who occupied these lands prior to the middle of the 17th century. We embrace the enduring presence and partnership of the Indigenous peoples of this region, including the Chippewa Tri-Council First Nations, comprised of the Beausoleil First Nation, the Chippewas of Rama, and the Georgina Island First Nation. We would also like to recognize the diverse Métis and Inuit communities within our region. The County of Simcoe is dedicated to honoring our Indigenous history and culture and is committed to learning together to heal and create future prosperity and respect and understanding in all of our communities. All right, so without further ado, today we are speaking with Alinka. Alinka is a distinguished writer, director, producer, and entrepreneur from Barrie, Ontario. Renowned for her impactful work in original musical theater as the founder of Infinity Arts Production, she has dedicated her career to bringing powerful stories to the stage, including her latest musical production, The Lost Heroes of Oro, which will be showcased at the historic Elgin and Winter Garden Theatres from February 6th to 8th this year in Toronto. A passionate wife and mother of four, Alinka combines her creative vision and dedication to the community with an ambitious goal to see her productions reach the stages of Broadway. So today, Alinka is here to join us to chat about her musical, The Lost Heroes of Oro. So without further ado, we will get into our interview. All righty. So Alinka, can you share the moment or experience that made you realize you wanted to bring historical voices to life through historic storytelling?
Well, I didn't come up with it on my own, like deciding to write about history, because I'll be very honest, in high school, I actually hated history. That was one of my least favorite subjects, which I'm happy that I decided to do now because I've never liked history until now, right? So what happened is that there was a company in Barrie, Theatre by the Bay. They asked me if, I guess because I was one of the only Black writers in Barrie or in Simcoe. So they came and asked me if I could write a story on the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Episcopal Church. Okay. And of course, that's when I researched and found out it was the last stop to the Underground Railroad. And I was like, oh my God. One thing I definitely always said I would never write about is slavery, Holocaust, or like child abuse. So those things, like, cause I'm a very really uppity, like Mary Poppins kind of girl, right? I like everything to be happy. I know there's, in my shows, there's a little bit of drama, but that scared me a little bit. But then when I was asked to do it, I kind of looked at it as a challenge for me. I said, Alinka, I like to touch on every subject. Like, I'd like to write about almost anything. So when they asked me to write it, I said, Alinka, let's just take this challenge. And I wanted to figure out how I can make such a dark time in our Canadian history be beautiful. And so that was the only way I could think of it. So really, that's how it started. And I just I started thinking of ways that I could still write it in the nature that I like to write. And so that was a challenge for me. And as I started researching, oh my gosh, and I found out that, Richard Pierpoint was connected there. And I started reading about his story. Honestly, I have never been so interested in history before. And the main thing is about him really wanting to go home after he was here for so many years. Just the story of it really pained me, right? And so that's why I needed the voices to be heard. I needed that to be heard for sure. So I don't want to ramble too much. So that's really how it started, and that's what it's about.
And how did your background or personal experiences do you feel influenced you to write The Lost Heroes of Oro?
Well, I think I want to talk about my background, of course, writing and directing. I do like to write stories that really impact the audience in a positive way. So that also background in my musical background, I love writing music, and I really feel like music. I know they asked me to write a play initially, and I said, well, it has to be a musical. Because for some reason, for me, music really brings out the emotion in people. It also brings out in the characters as well, and it touches and it helps to, whatever theme I'm trying to get across, it always helps to build that story for me. So I brought my musical background, of course, my writing skills as well. I don't really have any like connection that I know of course, to like the ancestors there, but from that, that's pretty much what I brought. I brought my gifts, I brought my talent. Yeah.
All right, one second. Muting participants. There we go. Okay. So,
yeah.
All right. So, and with your, can you walk us through your research process and for that historical period in time, and then how you ensured like the musical's accuracy for the.
Well, yeah. So, oh, sorry. Yeah. So what I did, I know I went on Amazon and I did buy a book on Richard Pierpoint. And I also, as I was reading, that's how it came to about him as well, because I was reading about the Oro Church. I noticed that they said that his color corps, his militiamen, were the ones that helped to build that church, and that you can still see the fingerprints in the walls. That's what I, and when I saw that, I said, And then I started connecting the two, and I saw that, of course, Richard Pierpoint was very influential in helping communities all across Canada. And also he did travel through the Georgian Bay, and he did also acquire land in the Oro. And that's pretty much how. So I got a lot of my research from the internet, and also from a book that I got based on Richard Pierpoint.
Yeah. What book were you reading?
Yeah, let me find it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can look for it. And just a minute. I'm just gonna look through. I was thinking of that too. I was like, let me find the book.
I'm just wondering if it's the one I'm also thinking of.
It's called To Stand and Fight Together, Richard Pierpoint and the Color Corps in the Upper Canada. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I was thinking of A Stolen Life by Peter Myler. So yeah, because that also features Richard Pierpoint. Yeah. So, and what surprising or unexpected things did you discover while you were working on the Lost Heroes of Oro? Was there anything that jumped out at you during your research?
There was a few things. Like in school, we learn certain things, right? When we learn about the Black history, I didn't know. Now, this is just, I'm sure other people know, but I didn't know. I didn't know that initially when they took the Black slaves, the Black people in Africa, they weren't taking them just because, you're Black and we want to make you slaves. That wasn't the initial reason. The initial reason was because at first they had the Europeans as slaves, but the problem was that they kept dying out through sickness, through cold, like they couldn't travel the long distance, and the majority of them would just die out. And what they found was the Blacks from Africa, they could withstand all that. So that is the reason why they started focusing on mainly Blacks to be slaves, because they could withstand all of that. Most of them, of course. It's just, I'm not saying that they're stronger necessarily, but for some reason they were not dying. So initially, that is why they captured the Blacks. Yeah, and when they got to America, I think that's where like the whole racism started, right? Also, what jumped out is that I couldn't understand. I didn't know that after everything that people did, like that, what they did and building their communities, just to go home was such an issue. Like I just found that so disheartening. You know what I mean? Like after everything he did in Canada, they still didn't want to let him go back home. And I don't know. I just found it really surprising after everything. Like how cold can someone be? You know?
Yeah. So you're realizing that connection that to your homeland was severed even further, even though you were now free.
And also, sorry, I did not know. Of course, I didn't know that. Of course, the church was that last stop to slavery. I mean, to the Underground Railroad. Because I was here in Barrie since 1996, and I've never in school never learned about anything like that. It was actually my husband that told me about that church. Just a few weeks before I was approached about the musical, about the show. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And how did you balance the historical accuracy with being creative in that process? Because a musical is so like it's a short period of time and you have to get
No, so you know what I did? So majority of the show, of course, when people do stories that are based on true stories, they got to add in little things that
yeah.
might have happened, that most likely could have happened.
Mm-hmm.
So the majority of my story, if anyone comes to watch it and watch the musical and listen to what Richard Pierpoint's saying or what the girls are saying when they're inside the church, it's all factual. And like what I had to do is that I had to figure out what happened in between those times. I gave him some friends that he spoke with when he was in America, whatever. There must have been someone he was speaking with, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like incorporated stuff like that. For example, also, I don't think people will get this in the audience. I think when I revamp the show, I'll try to figure out a way. But he always used to throw up a stone in the air and catch it every time he tell a story. People wonder why is he doing that, but that was actually a factual thing that he actually did.
Oh.
So stuff like that. Like, I mean, when I have things like as well, with the color core helping to build that church, I had to kind of put it in a lot of that stuff in monologues. Like even when they all got land, they were granted land in different places in Canada. I kind of had to
You just
incorporate
froze
that.
there for a minute.
Oh,
There you are. Oh, yeah,
sorry.
sorry, you just froze for a minute. Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, when I talked about them getting land and stuff, I had to kind of incorporate that into monologues. Am I freezing again? Am I okay? Okay.
No, you're good.
Okay. No, like yeah, so I had to put like a lot of the story I had to sorry. I'm sorry repeating myself again. A lot of the story I had to put like into a monologue because it was just a lot of information. So what I did, I incorporated that monologue with music just so it could still be enjoyable while learning. Because there are going to be people like me in the audience that are just like, oh, history, right? So I have to find a way, yeah, to make it, to keep it as accurate as possible while still making it entertaining, I guess, or, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I find, and I don't know, like you probably find this too, but music I always find adds that additional level of like emotional impact. So I
Yeah.
feel like you're just drawing in people and then it just like really sinks in when the music hits and you get the drama and like the actual like really hardcore part of that speech and then it moves through. Yeah. So I get it. Like musical is definitely a great form to use when you're trying to really like hit home a point, especially on the emotion level.
Definitely.
So can you share any specific like discoveries that might have influenced any developments of the musical? Like, was there anything that you found that you were like, oh, I have to go this direction on this now? Or the initial pathway I thought I was leading, I might have was there anything that just diverted your attentions?
You mean like any like alterations I had to make before I put it
Yeah,
out?
like when you were researching and you thought through like the story was going to go that way, but really you found something else and then it went off in another direction.
Yeah, actually, let me think about it. I'm trying to think. So there's a part in the story where I used to, first of all, I had to cut it down because they were in America just too long. So I kept having to make it shorter, just a little bit more time in Canada because we are in Canada. Yeah. But there's a part in the story where because as I was reading, I just had them coming to Canada and they started building. Yes, they got the land and it was great. But then what I didn't know, which kind of put a stump in there, is that in that time that a lot of people don't know as well, they were still selling slaves and there were still some slaves in Canada. So that's when my story took a little bit of a turn because I wanted to also show that as well, that even though I know Canada is big, great, and beautiful and everything, but I still wanted to show the truth as well. So when they came over here, when they kind of came through the Underground Railroad, yes, they had their freedom, but there were also other Blacks that didn't have their freedom. So that's kind of a little bump in my story that I had to kind of rearrange things because I really wanted to add that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very impactful. Like it's something that everyone should be learning and should know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you face any aspects, like what scene did you find was the most hard to adapt from historical record to the musical on stage?
What scene? Well, I think it's when now there was a time that I was reading as well where they started building the Oro the or African Methodist Episcopal Church. It was in the 1800s, and for some reason they said they started the foundation and they didn't finish it at that time. It's only like years later when they went back and continued building. So that was a part where I wasn't sure what to do there. Like I wanted to know why. It didn't really say why. So I kind of like just, okay, what could have happened? Maybe there was a storm, which I put a storm in there. Maybe, you know what I mean? I just put like a natural possibility that could have happened. Yeah. I think that's what your question was
Yes.
it?
Yeah, that was exactly it. That was perfect. Thank you. Alrighty. So who were some of your biggest musical influences, and in which way did they shape the creation of the Lost Heroes of Oro?
My musical influences. I would say my two brothers and myself. Honestly, like, okay, so when I write my music and I sing my songs to my brother, they are like, I mean, if you were to, have you ever seen the musical, by the way?
I've been watching your clips that you post on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you come and you see and you watch the show, you're gonna find, and I'm not trying to toot my horn or anything, you're gonna find that the music is like completely original, because what I hear in my head, I don't really hear anywhere else, right? I do hear like a simulation of it. So if I can give an example, I'm trying to think of someone who sounds or has that kind of sound.
Yeah.
I would think maybe like, you know, the music from Tarzan. I don't remember who does that. Who does that music again? Is it? I don't remember.
Maybe we could open that up to the guests
well, I mean,
here and we can see who.
Yeah, that's it. Or even actually, you know, even the Lion King, like that kind of sound. So I guess it didn't really influence the way I, you know, right. I've been writing since I was like a child, and I've been hearing music since I was a child, and I know exactly how it's supposed to sound. But if you want to like give a comparison, that would be those would be good comparisons. Yeah.
So the more instrumental kind of bass, that's cool. Yeah. All right. So with the lyric writing process, can you give us an example of a lyric that was probably your favorite one to write for the musical?
Oh my gosh, the song. Okay, the score has a lot of great songs. The first one I wrote was "Take Me Back to My Home," and I know I needed a little bit of like an African feel. One that I really love, though, I'll have to say two. So, Underground Railroad. It's called Underground Railroad, and they sing like, "Did you hear the Underground Railroad?" Right? And there's also "Hold On to My Soul." Those were two that I think were really impactful. It's like even the words and just even the melody, like the whole song. Like I wish we could put words on screens, because I know that when you watch a musical, you'll hear a little bit of the words, but you won't hear every single word. So I think the words and the music and the melody together, it's just those two are, It
was the perfect coming together. Oh, yeah. And what were some of the key challenges you, how did you approach developing your character arcs to reflect both the historical significance and the needs of the story? So were there specific characters you had to focus on more than others in that respect?
Well, I did focus a lot on Richard Pierpoint. And what he could be like, you know, his whole character and everything. But I focused as well on the friends that he has. So the friends that will stay in the same bunker as him. So I tried to put like maybe I put 4 different personalities, but I still suited them in a way that, you know, when opposites attract, so they all complement each other. And I had to also think of course, their costume and the way they would speak. For example, some of them have a stronger African accent than Richard Pierpoint. He worked in the house. So I did try to get a character that could have that African accent, but not as strong, because as he worked in the house, I just assumed that his English would have gotten a little more, I won't say better. I'll say English will, get a little, closer to our dialect and stuff. So that's, yeah, that. What else is there? Oh, and also the character of Master Billy. I had to think of someone who was Master Billy is like the slave owner, but not really the owner because Pierpoint was the owner. So he worked in the fields kind of thing. So I had to like also watch some movies and see what they're like and try to emulate that character all in one, you know? That was a task as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a, like, I know you probably can't pick favorites because you've like written all about them, but would you have a favorite character that you created for this show?
Oh, I don't. I I love them all. I'm telling
Yeah, I was
you.
about to
If
say
God,
that's
you
probably asking you.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy who plays Richard for sure, but also I do like it's Unday and Nyota. I do like those two characters a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And can you describe your process with writing the lyrics that would associate with those emotions? Like, was there anything that you were listening to a lot when you were writing that to create that emotion, or
No.
Mhm.
See, when I write my songs, I have to read that scene, whatever that scene is, from the beginning, and I have to play all the characters in my head. So I have to actually be each one of those characters in order to feel like, how's the song going to come out? So I always do this. I say the last line, and then I'll start singing a tune, a kind of sound that would work. The sound first. I never write the lyrics first. I always write the melody first. So I'll say the line again. I'll say whatever that line is just before that, or just a couple lines, and I'll keep doing it until I get a sound. I don't know how that works, but that's how it works with me. And then I'll start singing the melody, just the melody with no words. I'll record the melody with no words. And then after that, do I start writing and putting the words in? And of course, sometimes the melody sometimes changes a little bit depending on the wording. But yeah, and that's how I do. And then I have to keep going. I go over it without any music, just singing it, so much so that I can hear almost every instrument. And I will keep that in mind. And then when I go and meet with my brother, because I don't play an instrument, I'll go meet with my brother and we'll sit down literally for 12 hours for one song. And I will work with him and say, okay, this is how I want this to sound. And he'll get me to sing it over and over again. And he'll get a sound. I was like, oh, I like that. That's the one. And yeah, so we work together. That's how it happens every time.
That's so nice that it was kind of like a family thing that you were doing it together.
It is.
Yeah. And so how did you feel when you got to see the final production come all together? When you finally got to see everything on stage flowing as it should?
It was, I can't, if I talk about it, I think I'll start crying. So when I first did it, of course, that was amazing. But definitely in 2024, when I did it, I went and did all the light. I'm really particular about everything. So I went and sat with the lighting guys because I know exactly how I wanted it to look. I got the choreography almost the way I wanted to look when I got a choreographer to do some of it. And I'd also give them ideas. But when I see it, then when I saw it on stage, it's like, I don't know, it doesn't even, it's not even about the money or anything. I haven't gained anything yet, but it's not even about that. It's just seeing the show. And then sometimes when I'm doing the show and I'm sitting in the booth and we're doing the show and I'll say to myself just before it, I'm like, well, is it really that good though, Alinka? And then I'll watch it. And when it starts and it's like, it just captivates me. And I know it's my own show, but it's really, really like amazing to see your work the way you imagine it on stage.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, everybody in the audience is seeing like the same thing. And they come and tell you everything that you felt while you were writing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so when I see it, oh, trust me.
Yeah.
It's
your
like
whole heart
magic.
will be laid out. Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's like magic. I'm telling you. And I can't say it enough. And I know I'm rambling, but
no,
people won't believe me until they see it. So even when we tried to pull teeth, get the school board last year and they missed it, then this year when they heard about it, the schools were like asking me to do shows up here, which I
Yeah.
did last week. We did a week of Georgian shows, and they
Oh.
went really well. But then it's funny because the board still wasn't like fully endorsing it. They approved it, but they weren't. So they came, I guess members from the board came, and even some of them, I guess, said to another teacher, said, we apologize for not promoting this more. We didn't know how amazing it was until we saw it. So
yeah. Well,
nice,
that must have felt good. Yeah.
Oh, it did.
And what message do you hope audience will feel or think about after experiencing the musical? What do you want them to take away?
I want them to take away. Okay, I'll explain this. In this musical, I know I always put underlining messages. So this musical, I want everyone to, when they come to watch it, they have to look below the surface, because there are these hidden messages in this musical that every single person that's watching it, it can apply to their life in some sort of way. So everyone who's watching this musical, they will feel, I'm telling you, they will, no matter what, they will feel that in some way, shape, or form, it's applicable to them as well. And I don't know how, but I just know it does it. One thing I know is that you would think like I had someone say, oh, I don't want to see it because I don't want to see any slavery. It just makes me angry. But when you come, you're not going to feel angry. I want the audience to feel good, even though it's a dark time. And what I find is that even within the cast, it doesn't separate. It really brings everyone together. So instead you leave feeling divided or angry at the other race. That doesn't happen. You feel even more together after watching Lost Heroes of Oro.
That's an amazing thing to bring all together and to finally get to see your vision on stage and know that people are going to leave feeling more connected. Do you have any future projects that you're going to be looking to undertake? Are there any other historical periods in time that you think that you might want to bring to the stage?
It's funny that you say that, because now that I'm like on this history bug, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can do. I don't have anything in mind yet, but I'm sure something will come up. I'm convinced now, honestly, that I can write about anything, just anything. If I can tackle history, my worst subject, I can definitely. So I do have plans to do more historical productions, because I was so shocked at how many people actually like history. I actually honestly didn't have any idea how much people love history. So I'm in the minority when it comes to that.
But look at, now you're creating this beautiful way for people to get to experience it that's engaging, and that they can leave not only having learned something, but to also feel that. So it's an amazing way to come full circle for that.
For sure.
Amazing. So that's it for my formulated questions. Is there anything else that you want to let our audience today know about the Lost Heroes of Oro before we open up for questions?
Sure. Me or somebody else?
Sorry. You tell us what you know. This is your show.
All I know is that I want people to look at me as a Canadian writer, not just a Black Canadian writer. I want us to, like, I always tell everyone, I've been saying this recently, I said, and I want to say it again, we are Canadian, I am Canadian, right? This is us. So we need to support each other, honestly. Like, I see people flock to other companies that come into Canada, into Toronto, and they flock to the productions. But you know what? We have just as good as talent here. The shows that some of us can create are in the same caliber as any other show. And there's nothing wrong with going to other shows, but we also need to support each other. Then we can take our shows and go to other countries and they flock to us too. But yeah, that's all I want to say, is that just come out and support Lost Heroes, because it's about us. It's not just about me. It's about all of us. We need this message to get across, and we also need to show the world that we have this talent as well.
Yeah, that's more than fair. And so with that being said, for those in Simcoe County, will you be doing further shows up here after your run in Toronto next week?
I don't know about this year. I don't know about this year, because Elgin is really kicking my.
It's really I was like, you got the golden. Yeah, you got like a great theater downtown. So
I know, and boy, is it ever hard to fill it. But I'm still believing. Yeah, but I do plan to do more productions of Lost Heroes of Oro soon. Like I do want to. I don't know if it'll be this year, 2025, but I mean, if the opportunity comes up, then sure, right? I know a lot of schools, like even in other areas and provinces, well, a province was asking about us bringing it there. Like if I get a way that I can do a tour with it, I definitely will do that. Yeah.
Amazing. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Alinka. And now we'll open it up to the audience today. If anyone has any questions for Alinka, you can place them in the chat, or you can raise your hand and you can come off of mute. Well, we might have been too thorough.
I hope I answered all the questions.
Yeah, you were great. This is amazing. All right. Well, and we can always forward along any questions as well after. And because this will be getting posted to our virtual lecture series online,
Okay.
People will be able to view this afterwards as well. And once more, do you want to just plug your dates at Elgin coming up? And then we will, oh, one sec. Oh, there we go. Are you able to play any clips during this segment? Thank you, Alinka, for sharing today. We can try.
What kind of clips, like videos or?
Did you want to see the video YouTube clip? Are we looking for that?
I don't know. I'm not sure how to, do I have to share screen or can you do that?
I can do that. I can see. I've seen it, but some others may not have.
Okay.
One sec here. I can try and pull that up.
There's a few different
yeah.
For sure.
Is there one that you have particularly in mind, Alinka, that you'd like us to show them?
Not really. Let me see.
I'll just pull it up. Okay, so one sec here. I'll share my screen and then you can tell me which ones.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay.
Oh, that not that. Maybe the second one.
Okay.
That second one, maybe we could do that one. Yeah.
All right. If you can hear it.
Nope.
One sec. Sorry, could you hear it?
No, I can't hear it.
Okay, one second. Audio settings could just be something in here. Maybe it won't let me do two.
Well, we can show the pictures and then maybe send the link and then we can click on it.
Yeah.
When you share your screen, there's the option to share with audio. You just have to toggle that on.
Oh, okay, thank you. Share. Okay, so share sound. There it is. Thank you so much, Emily, or whoever. Okay. All right. Here we go. Let's go back to the beginning.
Ready to be moved and inspired in ways you've never imagined. The Lost Heroes of Oro, produced by Infinity Arts Productions, under the visionary direction of Alinka Angelova, invites you to witness a story that will move your soul. Come and witness brilliance from start to finish as Richard Pierpoint's heroic journey unfolds through powerful song, drama, and dance. Join us at the Elgin Theatre in Toronto, February 6th to 8th, 2025. Secure your tickets now at ticketmaster.ca. The Lost Heroes of Oro.
Stop sharing. There we go. Here we go. Okay. All right. And then were there any other questions? All right. Oh, so we just have a thank you, Alinka, for sharing this today. And yes, you can watch more of the links online through YouTube. Okay. And hopefully you get to see it in person too. Hopefully some others get to join you at the Elgin Theater.
Yes, that would be nice.
All righty. So
thank you so much, guys, for having me as well.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you coming to speak to us about the Lost Heroes of Oro and all the important work that you're doing in the community through it. So thank you so much. Oh, Kristen said, thank you very much. I'm looking up tickets right now. So
Yay.
there you go. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And we hope that you have a great day.
Great.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.